Become a sponsor for the Lost Art Project Veterans Voices. Looking for veteran-owned businesses to sponsor the podcast for 1 week? Each episode, social media video will be sponsored by your business only. What do you get? 5 sponsored episodes with your logo featured, 5 social media videos with your logo featured, and 1 daily post advertising your business on all social media platforms. Support a veteran podcast and advertise your veteran-owned business. Email AJ for details. Lost Art Project Veterans Voices at gmail.com. The Lost Art Project Veteran Voices with Andrew Cox. Preserving history, one veteran story at a time. Marine Corps League and Till Valhalla Project Ambassadors. Thanks for tuning in to the podcast that's given a voice to our veterans. The Lost Art Project, Veteran Voices with Andrew Cox. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Lost Art Project, Veterans Voices. I'm excited. We're going to have one heck of a veteran story for you today, so just stand by and get ready. But if you're enjoying these podcasts, make sure you go to the website. That's thelostart.podbean.com. Go check us out. See what we're all about. There's a couple ways you can help support us. You can always go to that website, click on that merchandise tab, go in there and get you some cool, really cool merchandise. I just got some new stuff in. This is for the Bearded Veteran Brotherhood. Same thing. Oh, where's it at? This side on the shirt. Anyways, I got that Lost Art Project, No More 22. There's all kinds of goodies on there. So just go check it out and get you your fill and help support the podcast. And of course, you saw at the beginning of the commercial, if you have a veteran-owned business, anything of that nature, and you want to partner with us, you can shoot me an email. Lost Art Project, veteransvoices at gmail.com. A big shout out to the Till Valhalla Project, man, out there doing amazing things. Everybody needs to go check them out. And if there's any way you can help support them, please do so. It would be much appreciated. You can find them at tillvalhallaproject.com. Are you a Marine veteran? Are you missing that bond you had on active duty? Then I have a place for you. Join the only congressionally chartered Marine Corps Veteran Service Organization, the Marine Corps League. Get that brother and sisterhood back in your life. Become one of the fewer, the prouder, a Marine Corps League member. All right, here we are, man. We are back. I got Staff Sergeant Brandon Mays here. Man, how are you doing? I just want to tell everybody, I found you on the social medias like I do most everybody, and I really like what you got going on. I saw the stuff, and I was like, man, this guy's got to come on. So reached out. Thank goodness you said yes, and here you are. But Brandon, how you doing, man?
Doing good, AJ. How you doing, brother?
Oh, man, I can't complain. I get to hear your story today, so it's going to be fantastic. I don't know. I'm ready to go. How about you?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, let's start at the beginning. Talk to me about where you grew up. Tell me kind of what was that like, and then what eventually drew you to military service.
Well, I grew up, born and raised in Sacramento, California, up until I was about 12 years old. My mother was into real estate. My dad was a long haul truck driver.
Oh, okay.
And pretty much lived a pretty cushy life growing up in the 90s, in early 2000s, living in Sacramento and all that. But unfortunately, due to my father, who was also a Navy veteran, by the way, he served 5 years in the Navy. He was electronics maintenance on different ships and destroyers. But unfortunately, maybe it's just a trait that I inherited from him. We Mays boys tend to do things the hard way, rather than get a forklift or a piece of equipment to make the job easier. And he would do a lot of hand unloading of the trucks versus waiting on the pallet jack, stuff like that. And sadly, he injured his shoulder and required surgery and stuff. So he ended up losing his CDL, and unfortunately, with the early 2000s and Californians, cost of living was just getting out of control.
Right.
my parents then decided to move to Kellogg, Idaho, which is
Okay.
a very small, country style living up in the mountains.
Hmm.
And basically going from a city kid growing up, having everything, Jack in the Box, Burger King, or malls, everything,
Yeah.
to one McDonald's and one grocery store, and that's it.
Yeah.
So, and I was about 12, 13 years old, just a pudgy little kid, from California, now learning the ropes of growing up in the mountain ranges of Idaho.
Yeah.
And definitely felt a bit out of place. And it was difficult making friends, even though there wasn't too many kids. My high school class size, put in perspective, was only like 81 kids, myself
Oh, wow.
included.
Okay.
But the saving grace, growing up in a small town like that, my high school had a Marine Corps JROTC program.
Ah, nice.
And we had a retired Marine Corps major and a retired Marine Corps master gunnery sergeant that
Okay.
ran the program. And at an early age, from watching, some of the war movies that, I catch my dad watching, like
Mhm.
Platoon or, you know, Rambo, like
Yeah. Yeah.
basically,
Yeah.
the stuff that you walk in on. But the one movie that caught my eye was, and I'm sure this was like this for a lot of people, was Top Gun.
Hmm.
And my dad, he was real big on like having the surround sound in the home, and
Yeah.
every time that opening would come on, he'd just crank it, the whole window shuttering and stuff, and
Yeah.
Highway to the Danger Zone. When I was a kid, I saw that, I was like, I want to be Maverick. I want to
Yeah.
be a fighter pilot. And so the idea of me joining the military was embedded from seeing that, and I got a cool cap on that later on in the story.
Okay.
But basically, uh, when I got to high school and I saw the Marine Corps JROTC program, I'm like, well, I can see this helping me get ready.
Hmm.
So from my freshman to senior year, I did the program, and started out as a private, just like everybody else, a cadet private, and
Right.
uh, my ability to catch on to the knowledge, the Marine Corps history, general orders, the drill movements. We even had a rifle team, and I was excelling at a lot of it.
Yeah.
And um, I actually made it up to Cadet XO. I was a cadet captain, and
Okay.
you know, through the mentorship from retired Master Guns Pickering and Major Groves, they really saw the potential in me to serve in the military. Obviously, they were biased and steering me
Hmm.
towards the Marine Corps, and my initial thought was to look at Air Force,
Hmm.
because I wanted to focus on aviation. Unfortunately, um, didn't have the highest ASVAB score, so the Air Force didn't want me. The Army was offering me contract E3 to go be artillery, or, field artillery, and a
Okay.
$30,000 sign-on bonus, and an
All
18-year-old
right.
kid. I'm like, hell yeah, sign me up, right? But the Army recruiter that I had was just very, I'll just put it, bluntly, he was lazy
Mm.
and wasn't very communicative with me. Even
Yeah.
though we talked about everything and signed like some initial paperwork, and I was getting ready to graduate, and my buddy was in the delayed entry program
Hmm.
and mentioned to his recruiter, which then became mine. He's a retired Gunnery Sergeant Jonathan Hookstra. Uh, Everybody called him Hooky because he would always hook the potential recruits and the police. Um, he
Nice.
uh, he showed up on a Saturday morning in dress blues at my house in Kellogg, in the middle of nowhere. And he lived over in like Spokane area in
Yeah.
Washington, and Idaho, we're right next to each other. Anyways, so he came out on a Saturday morning in dress blues, knocks on the door, and he's like, hey, are you Brandon? I'm like, yes sir. And I'm like, hey, your buddy Anthony told me that the Army's kind of giving you the runaround. Do you have 5 minutes? Maybe I can help you make the right decision, son. And
Nice.
it just made sense because I already spent 4 years in Marine Corps ROTC, so
Yeah.
I already had all the basic boot camp knowledge, Marine Corps history, and a decent idea of what to expect going into that branch of the military.
Yeah.
And I was hesitant at first, but honestly, my options outside of joining the military, especially up in God's country, was you either work in, the silver mine, or you become a
Mhm.
logger, or you join the military. Those are really like the three options for
Right.
making a living, at least for the area that I'm at. So I enlisted in June of 2009,
Hmm.
and I was in the pulley program for about 2 months. Did the PTs and getting ready to go, and then I shipped out for boot camp August 3rd, 2009.
Okay. Very nice. And now, I mean, 2009, I mean, we're well into all the stuff happening in Afghanistan, Iraq, all that type of stuff. So, I mean, you knew what you were jumping into at that point in time.
I did. So when I was going over like my enlistment contract, as far as like my MOS,
Hmm.
I was really only given three choices. Like I said, didn't score the highest on the ASVAB.
Right.
So it was one of those situations where he was like, well, we can get you infantry, food service, or logistics. And I was like, well, being an 18-year-old kid, I was like, I already kind of, and this, no offense to any of the grunts out there or anything like that, but my perception of an 18-year-old kid was like, well, I don't want to be a police officer when I get out.
Yeah.
So infantry, I didn't want to do that. And if I'm going to cook for somebody, I'd rather be for me and my family. So
Yeah.
food service was out, and I was like, well, what's logistics? And it was '04 open contract, so I could have ended
Okay.
up anywhere in the '04 field.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I was like, I'll take a shot on it. I'll go logistics because I was thinking, transportation logistics, like what my father did, being a truck driver.
Right.
Just basically like, well, if I do this job, I can at least carry over the job skills to something that
Mhm.
would fit well with me on the outside of the military. So
Right.
I decided to go '04 open contract. When I got to MCRD San Diego, that's where I went because I'm on the west side
Yeah.
of the Mississippi. Showed up at night, uh, much like a lot of other Marines experience. They get you on the yellow footprints and read that big old UCMJ poster right outside of what you can and will be charged with if you try deserting and fraudulent enlistment. Like basically the the fear check
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
did the whole corral thing, going inside, making the phone, the 30-second phone call home saying,
Yeah.
you made it here, don't send me anything, I'll contact you by mail, goodbye for now, all that stuff. It was very chaotic. But again, it was something that I already knew what I was going into, just based off of the ROTC training that I had prior to, and
Right.
the mentors I had growing up, and we all seen Full Metal Jacket.
Mhm.
So it was definitely a surreal experience. Actually
Yeah.
experiencing it for yourself versus watching it on a screen. But the first 24 hours you don't sleep. It's nothing
Right.
but paperwork, gear issuing, and just verifying your all the paperwork. And
Mhm.
so I was a contract PFC because of my ROTC program that I did in high school. So I had to go
Mhm.
speak to I think it was like a first lieutenant. Um, because the one question they ask when they get everybody in the auditorium when you're doing the paperwork stuff, like, who here is contract PFC or whatever. All right,
Mhm.
line up here and go verify your stuff. And I had to verify the letter from my uh, ROTC instructor, Major Groves, like showing that,
Mhm.
hey, I did 4 years when you only need 2 years to get a contract PFC. But
Oh, no kidding. Wow.
yeah, so starting off on the right foot, essentially, not having to wait, the 6 or 9 months, whatever it is now, to get, private first class. But when I got to Black Friday, I picked up with Kilo Company 3274, or no, not Kilo, sorry. Mike Company 3274, Platoon 3274. And, we all remember Black Friday is just, hate and discontent. Two sheets on the blanket, war bags, just chaos.
Right. Yeah.
And I'll be honest, there was a few parts in boot camp where I'm just like, okay, I'm going to put myself in a box, put it in the back of my mind, just go on autopilot through this crap. And, it's funny because you really get to see the kids that have never been yelled at a day in their lives, and just seeing, these men, break down in tears, or, it's like a fight or flight reflex that ends up kicking in. And, we had this one kid that was just like clenching his fists and like, gritting his teeth and acting like he's all big and bad and going to take a swing at the DI. And he's like, oh, it's like, you see those confrontations, but nothing ever really happens from it. Because it's not just one DI; the other two are going to come around to the sides and like try it. But boot camp in itself, it's definitely more mental than physical, in my opinion. When I left, I was already in really good shape. I wrestled in high school.
Nice.
So I knew what to expect as far as like the PT and everything else. But yeah,
you were really prepared for boot camp then. Like, I mean, between JROTC and just being an athlete, you were pretty much like, okay, hey, I know what's going on. I can make this happen, and fairly easy.
Fairly easy, in regards to the physical stuff. But like I said, boot camp in itself is, more mental than it is physical, because of the silly games that the DIs will play just to, break you down emotionally. We had, when they do like the dumping of the foot lockers and letters get out, the DIs will pick up the letters and be like, oh, she's getting dicked down by Jody right now, and blah, blah, like this, just trying to really get under, people's skin. But I was a bit of, one of those under the radar recruits.
Okay.
I did everything I could to not be on the radar, just, blend in with the masses.
Yeah.
And it wasn't up until so like the first week they asked, like, all right, who did, Eagle Scouts, who did ROTC, any kind of leadership development courses prior to coming here. And I didn't raise my hand. I was like, I already know where this is going. This is where you're going to assign the guide, the squad leaders, and, the house mouse, the scribes, all that crap.
Right.
And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, why do I want to take away somebody else's chance to earn PFC when I already got it?
Yeah.
Because those are the ones that get meritoriously promoted. So it wasn't up until about like T30, 35, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Before, basically trying to, gauge where all the recruits' knowledge is at. And, they would always ask me like the general orders, and I would always nail them every time because I already had them memorized. And, it was my kill hat. It's just like, I haven't taken your ass to the pit yet. What the fuck are you doing? So
that's pretty impressive. If you made it to T30-ish time frame and you hadn't been to the pit, I mean, that's
isolated, like collectively, yes, we've all been to the pit, but as far as like, like individually. So, he then decides to go to the senior and actually pull my file. And that's when they saw the letter and everything else. And, I was a integrity violator, and basically for like the next week, I was just getting IT daily on the quarterdeck for being an integrity violator. And they were just like, why the fuck didn't you say anything? I'm like, this recruit already had contract PFC, sir. Didn't want to take it from another recruit. Bullshit, you're a fucking lazy shit. Get over here.
I love it. Man.
So for anybody that's thinking about joining boot camp, don't do what I did, because they're gonna find out eventually. If you're too much of a smart ass, they're gonna look up your stuff.
Yeah,
So
that's true. That's true. They'll find out eventually. Yeah.
they will. But unfortunately, though, I did not graduate with that platoon. I actually ended up getting dropped on T50 because I ended up developing cellulitis on my knee.
Oh man.
So I had to, and this is another surreal experience. Being taken in a duty van down to Balboa Naval Hospital, to get the little, day surgery. Basically, they just numb it up and cut the skin off and stitch it up. But because I had an open wound like that, the timeline for recovery was too long just to be on light duty. So I ended up getting dropped to MRP.
Mm-hmm.
So that was also very weird, because like when you go to Balboa Naval Hospital as a recruit, like I was on my own. I was by myself. And they were, they gave me a sheet of paper of like where to go to get the procedure done and follow-ups and all that. And I don't have any rank on, I don't have any name tapes yet. And it's like I started saluting Navy personnel, even though they were just petty officers, but they had the damn shiny rank.
Yeah, you saw
they were like, they were like, what the fuck are you doing? Like I'm a recruit, I don't know. So but yeah, no, that whole experience was just I want to say it was pretty depressing, because I got sent to MRP. I was there for 3 weeks.
Okay.
And I ended up meeting individuals that had it way worse off than me. Like kids falling down the Reaper, breaking their hips, and fibulas. Honestly, the saddest story was a kid that didn't even make it to the Yellow Footprints. So he thought he thought he was Billy Badass. When they say get off the bus, he jumped from the top rather than walking down. He landed on his right ankle, rolled and shattered it, and had to have like reconstructive surgery and shit done. And he was there for 6 months recovering, waiting to either go back in or actually go to boot camp, or just get processed out. So
holy moly, that is crazy.
So it's like you hear stories like that, and it's like, Jesus Christ, okay, I definitely don't have it as bad as this guy, but there are injuries that happen in training, especially boot camp, and it's really unfortunate, because it's like MRP just really felt like prison, honestly, because like on family days, the DIs there will let you have an hour with your family, but it's like out front of the squad bay next to like some park benches, and that's it. Right. It's like a conjugal visit. I'm like, I was like, all right, hurry up and fucking heal, and you get the hell out of here. So then I picked up with Kilo Company, platoon 3230, which was also pretty hard, because I'm starting with a new platoon, a new company. It's still 3rd Battalion, but I had to integrate with a bunch of guys that I had no relationships with, or didn't really build that bond. And when I got there, I was just known as the filthy pickup recruit, and just having to reintegrate in with them and prove my worth, so to speak. And it was like right before final drill. So amazingly, even though I was out of the game for like 3 weeks, the knowledge hat that was teaching drill and stuff, he was asking me if I could still drill, because they were getting ready. I was like, this recruit thinks so. He's like, all right, pick the rifle. So he ran me through inspection arms, right shoulder, left shoulder, all that stuff, and I matched perfect timing with them.
Nice.
And he was like, all right, get in the back of 3rd squad. So we actually won final drill, and we were actually honor platoon. We ended up taking all the trophies. I can't say that I helped him win them all, but I can at least say I helped with final drill.
Yeah. So that's pretty awesome, though.
Yeah, so it was again, it was just hard, because I was there for 3 extra weeks compared to everybody else that normally goes through. But it honestly just in a way, it was almost a break to kind of just see the bigger picture, of, as far as like all of MCRD and like all these different elements and how the whole base operates, and with medical recovery platoon. Um, it just really put things in perspective. And, at first it was depressing, but then it was like, all right, I'm going to get through this shit and I'm going to make it to the, parade deck and graduate.
Yeah.
And, so, did, the Crucible with them, which was, the first and last time that I ever had the veggie omelet MRE.
Yeah,
that
was not
was
so good.
yeah, no, I got the short straw as far as like when they hand out the 3 MREs for the day, or for the whole culminating event.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of them. But yeah, the Crucible itself, I just like looking back, I couldn't believe, like, I was only a 19-year-old kid going through it, and the physical aspect of going hiking all those miles and running up hills, patrolling, the bayonet fighting, and the every leadership style event, like how it was just constant go 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 on like very little sleep. I was just amazed, physically, what I was able to really do, like pushing beyond limits. I mean, I thought I was in pretty good shape when I went there. I was at 188 when I went to boot, and when I graduated, I was 175. And I was just lean, mean, and just amazed just to see the transformation. But it's one of those experiences that I will never forget. I'm grateful for it. So yeah, boot camp. It'll really test what kind of person you really are.
Yeah, that's a true statement. I think the way the Marine Corps does boot camp is very proficient, and it does break you down and build you up. And just about it, I won't say it does everyone, but just about everyone's going to get broken down at some point in time and built back up. And to be able to take that and that culminating, and like you're saying, with the amount of hours that you're out there and the little amount of sleep that you get, and to be able to work as a team. I mean, the Marine Corps, I think, has it right when you look at boot camp. So now I think I'm a little biased, but that's okay. That's how I see it.
No, I mean, absolutely. Again, it's one of the experiences in my life where I truly had no regrets, of making that decision, to leave home, being a young kid, not really, knowing what life's really all about. But boot camp will definitely, help you grow up pretty damn quick, and, kind of understand, that sense of, service above self.
Right.
Again, it's just it's an experience that you have to live if you truly want to understand what it's like to be a Marine.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Wow. All right, so you do boot camp. You finish honor platoon, and at that point, you get did you take 10 days boot leave?
So when I graduated, because I dropped back 3 weeks, because I went to boot camp August 3rd, because of the 3-week drawback. By the time I went on boot leave, it was already like the holiday season. So as far as picking up for MCT, they weren't doing that until the beginning of the next year in 2010.
Nice. Okay.
So I ended up getting on recruiter's assistance for 21 days. So
nice.
I had 31 days technically, off. Recruiter's assistance was honestly not necessarily bad, not necessarily good. It was kind of like a glimpse of what it's of what it could be in regards to like some sales training that not many people get, because essentially your goal on RA is to help the recruiter get 2 names, 2 numbers a day. That was my quota.
Okay.
So I'd show up at 08, and basically just get a brief of the day of like, hey, I'm going to be over here, get running this guy to MEPS or whatever. And he would like assign us like, areas of operation to like go and scope out. So it'd be like, head to this mall here from this time to this time, and just spark of a conversation with kids around your age, or adults around your age, I should say, and just tell them what you're doing and how you're trying to find the nation's next few in the crowd. So
Yeah.
it was I don't want to say it was bad, wasn't that great, but at the same time it was it was a different side of the Marine Corps that I never really expected. So
Right.
Overall, I was able to get my 2 names and 2 numbers every day and stuff like that. And just like a lot of us that do RA, we're gonna give out our buddy's phone number, our buddy's name, from high school. They're like, "Hey, bro, by the way, my recruiter's gonna call you. Just FYI."
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck type deal. But again, like during that time, being home with the family, I will say was, it was fun, but it was also kind of weird. So, long story short, kind of backing up a little bit, just a little bit of a personal note. My father was not always the best mentor figure. And what do I mean by that? Essentially, when he lost his job driving truck, and when we moved up to Idaho to be with family, our family closer up here, he ended up becoming a drug addict to pain medications.
Okay.
And let's just say mix that with bipolar and other psychological issues that he had going on. It was definitely I don't know, I guess the best way to compare it, if we all seen Breaking Bad, my dad was Walter White, but he didn't make the blue stuff. So, needless to say, quite a few punch holes in the house growing up. Never had clocks on the walls. They were always being broken or tossed. Maybe that's a CPTSD response why I have so many clocks in my house now. But essentially it wasn't always it wasn't a physical abuse. It was mental and verbal. Right. And I think that's what really helped push me to join the Marines right away, or join the military right away, rather than waiting, because I just want to get the hell out of that situation.
Yeah.
And coming home for the holidays, nothing really changed. He was still abusive, still on the drugs and everything else. And basically, like, it was kind of like a hi, bye, like I'm doing this now, just want to make sure you're still breathing. And it wasn't up until about a year later when my mom finally had the courage to leave him and to get herself out of that situation as well. But needless to say, like, getting yelled at in boot camp, that was just a regular Tuesday night at the Mays household, honestly. Pretty thick skin, as far as that's concerned. But so after recruiter's assistance, did MCT training back at Camp Pendleton, and picked up with Golf Company, or God's Company, as I like to say.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool little experience. And I mean, at this point, I still didn't know, what my MOS really was going to be, other than 04, open. So, I did the whole Marine Corps combat training, got to get that experience, got to shoot a lot of, cool guns, the 240, 249, the AT4 and all that stuff, the grenade throw. And then, of course, doing all the sim round stuff in the mountain towns and all that. So it was fun for the most part, up until near the tail end of MCT training when you had to do your, either you're on the assault or the defense when you have to build, your defensive, structure or your foxhole, so to speak, or your fighting hole. But anyways, we ended up getting rained out. It was one of those weird, like rainy seasons in Southern California, and we actually had to get evacuated because of all the flash flooding that was happening. So halfway through the defense, we were, in the muck and everything else to then defending our freaking barracks, like literally just, had our weapons on the hatch on our racks, like simulating, being in the defense. So I don't want to say our, culminating event as far as MCT was, downgraded, but it definitely was, just, due to the circumstances of the weather.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, at the same time, it went by quick because it was only about 3 weeks. We still did all the hikes, and again, it was just stuff that I was already expected to go through.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, so after MCT, then it was time for you to go to your schoolhouse. Did you figure out specifically what your MOS was going to be at MCT, or was that when you
so right before shipping out to Camp Johnson, I got my orders for landing support specialist 0481 school.
Okay.
So I was like, what the hell is this? So like I'm Googling and trying to figure out what the hell it is. And about the only thing I really found was doing the helicopter support teams, doing the sling load operations,
right.
Like Humvees, pallets, whatever.
Uh-huh.
So as soon as I get there, they were like, welcome to the best kept secret MOS that the Marine Corps has to offer. And I'm like, okay.
Interesting. Okay.
And, the first thing I noticed is they all had the red patch.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the hell is that? So a little bit of history behind it. So it was originally a yellow patch back in World War II. So during the amphibious assaults, like the beach or the island hopping campaign, the logistics Marines, the landing support is basically the Army's version of shore party. And basically we would go and help coordinate all the logistics, to and from the ship, whether it's, sending in the right supplies, equipment, etc.
Right.
And back in World War II, they didn't really have the patch yet. So a lot of us ended up getting mixed in with the infantrymen and actually going forward when it's like, whoa, I'm supposed to be here on the beach coordinating everything.
Yeah.
So that's when they came up with the idea with the patches, and it was originally a yellow patch, and it wasn't changed to a red patch up until Vietnam.
Kidding. Wow.
So with the history behind changing it to red was because we were non-infantry Marines, we would still be the first boots on the beach with the grunts and the last ones to leave.
Yeah.
So plenty of us would have to lay down suppressive fire, establish a beachhead, and maintain coordinating, control, and logistics. So the idea with the red patches coming up to the the kneecap there on the trousers is to help honor our fallen Marines that would basically get killed during those amphibious assaults and the ocean turned red. So our motto was, with blood to our knees, we became Red Patch Marines.
So, wow.
So it's also one of the only MOS, identifiers that the Marine Corps even has. So, and of course, there's a lot of slang, a lot of made up stuff about it. Whenever they see the red patch, like, oh, they have AIDS, or stay away from that guy. He's HIV positive or whatever. So
yeah.
And it's funny because of all the stuff that people would believe, and It even got to the point where we would actually make up MOSs, be like, "Oh, those red patches mean we're submarine door gunners, or we're in-flight missile repair techs or satellite snipers." Like we would just make shit up.
Yeah.
And even though we were logistics, our history was primarily combat arms and logistics because we would be with the front, first wave going in to establish the beachhead. So,
right. Yeah.
a little bit of history there, and I thought that was pretty cool. And going through the schoolhouse, we learned how to, basically pack and load pallets, basically everything from like warehousing to ship to shore movements to loading up aircraft and how to properly do the weight to load distribution, making sure everything's balanced, because I think we've all seen those videos of airplanes taking off, and then all of a sudden they do that and go down. That's because they weren't loaded properly or strapped down properly, or the load and weight distribution wasn't correct. So learn how to find center balances on vehicles and Humvees and all that stuff. And then obviously doing the sling load operations, understanding what the proper link count should be from when we're slinging stuff up to make sure that when it takes off and flies, it's level and not, canted in any way.
Yeah.
So quite a bit of, math involved and, analytical thinking. And, when it comes to like loading a ship, it's kind of like playing Tetris, understanding, you can only stack so many containers that weigh this much on one side. Otherwise, you're going to be selling like this at an angle. So, so it was honestly, an MOS that I didn't see myself doing, but I was like, this is pretty cool, and a lot of transferable life skills. And got through the schoolhouse pretty quick. It was only about 3 weeks schoolhouse.
3 weeks is it, huh?
Yeah, it was pretty quick.
Wow. Okay.
Just to get a basic understanding of how the systems worked, and then the majority of our job is really just tracking and coordinating supplies. So learning how to communicate properly on the radio and understanding what serial numbers match with what. So it's one of those MOSs, which, by the way, now is now integrated with the 0431 MOS, which is embarkation.
Okay.
So now, instead of having a 0481 and a 31, now it's 0441. They just married them both together now. And basically just classified us being logistics specialists, because basically coming up in the Marine Corps, the embarkers would be the ones that make all the load plans. LS, or landing support, we actually go out and do it.
Right.
So we're the ground pounders of logistics. They're the ones that typically do all the calculations. And I mean, we both literally do the same job. It's just we always been segregated for some reason, but now they finally just like, we're just going to marry you guys together.
Yeah.
So
does that actually make it where you can go more places because of that, or?
Possibly. I mean, I don't know, because that's relatively new, because I got out in 2019. I think they married the MOSs back in 21.
Oh, okay.
So it was before my time. So when people ask me what my MOS is, they're like, "Isn't that a 41 now?" But I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm grandfathered 81.
Yeah.
I'm legacy." So
I'm old school, man.
Yep.
I like it. Well, now you were there for 3 weeks, and where did the Marine Corps decide to send you?
So they gave me, at the end of the day, when you go through, where you can go, typically the instructors will bring you in and be like, "Hey, we got this many slots available East Coast, this many overseas, this many this many spots West Coast," and I wanted to go back to the West Coast because that's where all my family was at. And fortunately enough, I got my, my wish, and ended up going to CLR 17 was the regiment, and then went straight to the landing support company down there in Camp Del Mar on Camp Pendleton.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So get there. And by the way, during schoolhouse leave, because I had a 10-day period, I did the boot thing, and I still don't regret it because we're still together. I married my high school sweetheart.
Nice.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so we were actually trying to get married before I joined up, but my recruiter basically said, if you marry her, I'm not going to let you enlist, which
Oh,
was
geez.
bullshit. Which was bullshit because I just knew he just didn't want to do the extra paperwork. But
Yeah.
whatever. But boot camp and the school MCT in the schoolhouse was kind of like a test to see how well she can do without me for a few months. And I ended up coming home, marrying her on boot leave, and I was like, all right, I'll send for you in a few weeks once we get things settled up with my new unit.
Yeah.
So I ended up going to IPAC inbound, for registration and everything else. And the first question they asked, like, all right, who got married? So I had all the paperwork and
That's
everything.
a question they ask, though.
Oh yeah. Well, and I didn't find out until later that technically you're supposed to ask for permission from your your ups, your higher ups in order to get married. So basically I was not making the best impression first hitting the fleet, getting married, and everybody's calling me a fucking idiot. And it's like, oh, you're gonna be fucking divorced in 2 months, you dumbass. You're in California, you got all this, all these women out here, what the fuck you doing, blah blah blah. But I just knew that she was the one early on, and we both had a similar upbringing as far as like abusive households. So as far as like understanding our wants and needs, we just got each other at a very young age. And this March will actually be 16 years that we've been married.
Nice.
So
that's great, man.
And it's a fucking anomaly because the majority of marriages, unfortunately, I think it's like what's the ratio? Like 80% end in divorce.
Very true. Yeah.
So
very true.
But yeah, so got married, got yelled at, hitting the fleet. And I was only with LS Company for like a few months because the 11th MEU was getting activated, and the Combat Logistics Battalion 11 was getting re-up. So CLB 11, Combat Logistics Battalion 11, typically only stands up when there's a deployment.
Okay.
So the opportunity came down where like they needed the LS platoon, and we didn't get to choose, like, all right, we're going on a MEU or we're going to Afghanistan. Like it was just straight up like, hey, you're going on a MEU. And I'm like, okay. So basically chopped over to CLB 11, did all the pre-deployment training, everything else.
Now, you were a Lance Corporal at that time?
So I was a PFC, got promoted to Lance Corporal. I think it was like 9 months later, because we didn't deploy until July of 2011.
So you chopped over as a PFC and then got promoted before you took off.
Correct. So I was a Lance Corporal, and my wife was pregnant about 6 months into being over there. So this is like back in 2010, late 2010. Okay. And basically getting ready to expect our first kid. Everything was looking good up until when he was born. They didn't catch that he had a birth defect. My son ended up being born with spina bifida.
No kidding! Wow.
Yeah, he basically he was a C-section because he was breached, and this is all at Naval Hospital Balboa.
Mm-hmm.
And when they did the C-section and he came out, he had about a silver dollar size hole in his back, on his lower back, and you can literally see the spinal column, the nerve endings, and everything.
No kidding.
Yeah, it was spina bifida myelomeningocele, which is 1 in 10,000 cases, as far as like the rarity of it. And my first initial thought was the freaking captain that was in there doing the C-section, cut my kid's back with a scalpel or something. That was like my first thought. I'm like, what the hell did you do to my kid? Even though I'm like this peely little Lance Corporal, like, that's my family. Anyways, he's like, oh no, that's spina bifida. I'm like, well, what the fuck is that? He's like, oh, you didn't know? No, we didn't fucking know. Meanwhile, my wife's filleted open. Like, what's going on?
Oh, jeez.
So we were only, 20-year-old kids when this happened. And, when my son came out, he had hip dysplasia. When he was laying on his side, it literally looked like a dog almost, just with the way his hips were.
Wow.
So then obviously Balboa Naval Hospital didn't have the resources or, care experts to care for that. So, we ended up taking him over to Rady's Children's Hospital there in San Diego.
Oh, nice. Okay.
They ended up doing a couple surgeries to, close up his back and everything else. And, while he was recovering in the NICU there, some lieutenant commander from the hospital came over saying, oh, well, we're going to take your son back to Balboa. And I'm like, the fuck you are? He's like, oh, well, we'll see about that, Lance Corporal. And I'm like, sir, get the fuck out of here. I don't care if I go to the brig. You're not touching my son. So he muttered something and walked out. And, Dr. Meltzer, God bless him, was my son's surgeon to help close up his back. Basically said, it's like, is there anything I can do? It's like, you keep that piece of shit away from my son. And he's like, don't worry, he's barred from the hospital. He can't come back.
Oh, wow.
So, because at the end of the day, it's like, I understand I'm government property. My son's not. Fuck you.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
So, anyways, and this is all getting ready for deployment. He also, like, we're doing the last pre-deployment trainings, down there, getting ready with the MEU. And I ended up getting a phone call from my wife, saying that my son, is breathing irregularly. He ended up having like a really bad colic, and it just looked like, there was just something going on, and his head started swelling up. So one of the side effects with spina bifida is called hydrocephalus, which means water on the brain.
I see.
So we all have fluid on our heads. His body didn't stop producing it, and with that, it causes brain swelling and seizures. So they had to do, basically emergency brain surgery to drain the fluid, and then also put in a shunt, which is basically just like some tubing that basically runs down on the inside to help drain the excess fluid. And when he had that surgery done, this is like 2 months getting ready to, to go on deployment. And I'll be honest, my mindset was not there. Like, I was like, I don't know if I can deploy, I might have to refuse orders. But my wife didn't want me to, get in trouble or lose my rank or anything else. That plus, realizing that I had a kid with, these disabilities and issues, when I first enlisted, I was thinking like, well, I'll do my 4 and get out. If I make sergeant in 4 years, that was my initial goal. Do that and move on. But then after my son was born and having all these surgeries, being a young, 20, 21-year-old kid, I was just, not sure, if I was ready for all this.
Yeah.
And like most of us, being new parents, well, I'll be honest, nobody's ready, but
it's true. Yeah.
But let alone with a disabled child. But I basically decided then and there that, I'm going to stay in this club as long as I can for the TRICARE and everything else. And, just the security of it. So I ended up deploying with the 11th MEU. I was on the USS Pearl Harbor, LSD 52. My wife ended up living with family, so she wasn't alone, having to, deal with everything on her own. And, honestly.
So she went back to Idaho, or?
Yeah. Because we were just in base housing on Pendleton, and I was like, let's collect the BAH and, you go live at home. And she was able to be with family, so she had that resource and people to lean on if necessary. So I was able to do my first deployment, which on the home front, it was just hard because I was always worried, someone was going to have a son, and, realizing that my wife's having to do all this on her own. But honestly, she is one of the most resilient women I ever met. And if anything, having our son and going through all this, while serving, just really proved like how resilient we really were to do what was necessary to provide for our kid. So on the first deployment, went to several different places. Our first stop was actually Cambodia.
Oh, wow.
Well, technically the first stop's Hawaii, but it's the first and last stop. But anyways, we ended up going to Cambodia just to do the Westpac, which is basically what the 11th MU is. They're called Westpac. So basically, it's going around the Indo-Pacific and eventually going up into 5th Fleet region to be a 911 response. So other than doing helicopter support teams and embarkation, the other mission of my MU, the mission of LS for the MU, was doing the NEO missions, non-combatant evacuations. So we basically run as like TSA. In case we ever had to evacuate like an embassy or Americans in a foreign country. Right. So we did all the training for that, had the NTS systems and, basically, $1 million internet connection out in the middle of nowhere to be able to check Facebook and stuff like that. Not saying we ever did that, but it was a nice, easy. It was a nice, easy way versus having to spend money on the ship store cards for using the damn phones on ship to call home. So, so anyways, that was a few perks of having that job, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, so first stop was Cambodia. They actually got hit by a typhoon a couple weeks prior to us showing up, and so with landing and support, when we're done doing our logistics piece, we're kind of just chilling on the beach, waiting for everybody to do their thing and then come back. So, the combat engineers were actually asked to go out to some of the schools to help rebuild some of the classrooms because they got hit by this typhoon, did a lot of damage to the buildings. And they asked if anybody wanted to, come along to help support, so it was pretty cool being a new father, going to these schools, helping to clean up and then, helping to rebuild. And then like during recess with the kids, we were doing like shuttle runs, playing kickball and stuff like that, playing duck goose, and these are all like, elementary school kids. And being a new father, it was, just a nice little glimpse of, what I had to look forward to.
Right.
When I got back home, and, even though we didn't speak the same language, it's amazing, how just playing simple games can just, it's like a universal language and we can all just have fun,
Yeah.
And that was definitely one of the best, first other world's culture experiences I could ever ask for. And that night on the beach, we didn't tell our commander about this, but the Cambodian naval commander that was there, he was just he had like a military shirt and then like Hawaii shorts, like just
nice.
Cambodian military.
Anyways,
nice. We ended up having, a little bonfire on the beach, and, he was asking if we wanted to drink beer. And we're like, well, hell yeah. And he's like, all right, well, I see you guys have pallets of water. I'll trade you. So we were trading pallets of water for Anchor beer is what it's called.
Nice.
Kind of like a Budweiser.
Yeah.
And, we all start drinking beer. We all start getting hungry, and we see some chickens off in the distance. And he's like, you hungry? And we're like, hell yeah. And he's like, he yelled something to somebody off in the distance. It was actually his wife. And she's like, okay. And last thing we see is her disappear off in the dark with a machete. And like 30 minutes later, she comes back with a roasted chicken.
Nice.
For all of us. And, he ended up taking a few of us down by the shoreline, and there was sweet potatoes growing near the shoreline, and he
No
pulled them
kidding.
out. Yeah, he pulled them out and threw them into the coals of the fire. So we had sweet potato and freaking roasted chicken right there on the
Wow.
booth. I was like, this is awesome. Like we're just hanging out, drinking beer, and one of my other corporals. I was a corporal during my first deployment. I forgot to say I got promoted.
Yeah.
Um, and we were just listening to music, just having a good time. Just you know, chilling on the beach. In a foreign country, just having fun, drinking beer, and eating real good food.
Yeah.
And then after Cambodia, we went to Philippines, went to Cebu, which was an interesting experience,
Yeah.
to say the least. Then after that, we went to we took a break from the Pacific part, and we actually went up through the streets of Hormuz, going around
Okay.
Horn of Africa and all that. And we
Yeah.
went to Saudi Arabia, and then we went to Kuwait. Like this is all just for joint operational training with
Hmm.
those countries' militaries. So pretty much the same process, just offload, hang out, or go do some ranges with the other militaries, or basically you know just do simulated warfare, whatever. So
Right.
honestly, like the whole first deployment is pretty much just the repeat of that several times. But yeah, went up through Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, went to Camp Earing for Christmas, for about 2 weeks, and then after that we went to uh, Bahrain for a couple weeks. Then we went to one of our first Libo ports, which was Abu Dhabi, Dubai.
Yeah.
Which, oh my god, like I didn't realize like how rich that side of the world really was, but got to experience that. Um, I could talk for an hour about that stuff, but other than that, we went to uh, then we went to Jordan for our agricultural washdown, for all the places that we went to, and basically after that we just started our trek home. Then we went to Thailand, Malaysia,
Nice.
Singapore, and then back to Hawaii, back home.
Yeah.
Um,
And
so
looking over that entire deployment while you were out, what was you say kind of the takeaways for you?
honestly, the biggest takeaways was some of these places that we went to, like Cambodia, for example,
Hmm.
or um, you know, a few of the smaller villages we went to in the Philippines. Really getting to see how good we really have it as Americans.
Yeah.
Just as far as quality of life, opportunities. Um, you know, and seeing how these people are growing up rough because of the environment that they live in. you
Yeah.
know these people know starvation, they know what it's like to have nothing, and
Very true.
it really just put it in perspective how good we really have it as Americans.
Hmm.
We have first world problems, you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
we want to bitch about a dollar more for gas when these people don't even have gas for over 100 miles, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, it's also, our society really takes for granted all the instant gratification when it comes to getting things in life, when
Oh yeah.
you know for a lot of places in the world, they don't have that instant
Hmm.
gratification. That they nine times out have to work for it, fight for it, steal for it. Which I can go into more of that on my second deployment, because that's where I really got to see some interesting stuff. But when we got back, I was promoted to sergeant,
Okay.
not too far after. So at this point, it's 2012. I've only been in for just a little over 3 years, and I was. It was crazy to think how fast I picked up rank. largely just due to the timing of me joining in 2009. And then over the years, a lot of the sergeants and staff NCOs were getting out. So a lot more spaces were opening up.
Right.
So like as soon as I got the cutting score, I got promoted.
Yeah.
And I was a pretty good, well-fit Marine, first class PFT, CFT, expert on rifle range, did all my MCIs. And yes, I could say this. I did all the Red Book MCIs back in the day.
Old school MCIs, yeah. Oh, yeah, those were fun.
So, when you have the Scantron and shoot it in.
Yeah.
So it was funny because my staff NCO, Staff Sergeant Kaiser, Spring Kaiser, her parents were hippies. Anyways, first name Spring. Anyways, we're doing a HST, and she called me and my buddy Osterbrock, my buddy Vetter. She's like, "Maze, Osterbrock, Vetter, get over here." We're like, "Yes, Staff Sergeant." She's like, we all have our flak and Kevlar on, and she's like punching us in the chest, saying, "Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you." We're like, "What's going on? Like, you want to throw down?" Anyways, and we're just a bunch of corporals.
Yeah.
It was like, you assholes are all getting promoted to sergeant on October 1st, 2012. We're like, what the fuck? And she showed us her phone. Yeah, and everybody that got selected, I was like, what the fuck? Okay. But the problem was, for our platoon size, it literally turned into landing sergeant platoon because it was pretty much every swinging dick other than two juniors that we had that were lance corporals. They got promoted to corporal. Yeah. But literally out of like 20 guys, 18 of us were sergeants.
Wow. Holy, that's crazy.
So good luck telling anybody to fucking do something. Like,
yeah. That definitely makes things challenging. I mean, you're leading your peers, and there's not unless somebody's designated platoon sergeant or whatever, right? That's the only thing that's really changing things at that point in time.
Yeah, no. It only lasted for about a month because Headquarters Marine Corps, found out. They're like, holy shit, why do we have so many sergeants here? Disperse. Everybody, you get orders.
Yeah.
Well, and it was also a lot of them were, planning on getting out. It was like they were only going to do one enlistment and call it good. You're like, oh shit, I made sergeant in less than 4 years. Like, I can get out with that good notch on my belt.
Yeah.
But with me, having my kid and all of his health issues and requirements, I was like, no, I'm sticking around for this long haul as long as I can. And basically, after everybody scattered and it came time for me to re-up, I was asked, like, where do I want to go? And I'm like, well, my kid's healthcare is here. We're already established here. We're just going to stay here. And I'd rather just stay on with CLB 11, do another deployment, because after that point, it was going to be a rotational basis. We'd switch off with the 13th and 15th MU, just rotate out. So, anyways, I re-up. All the sergeants go away except for me and my buddy Kolb. He decides to stay on and re-up and stay where I'm at too, because he didn't have a kid or anything, but he liked the MU lifestyle and what we do and everything else, and just wanted to stay on with it. That plus, we were going to be the senior guys staying behind training the new guys, and I was actually, wasn't the platoon sergeant because we had the staff NCO was holding that billet, which the new staff sergeant that came in was Staff Sergeant Ford. He's now Master Guns Ford. He just got off of recruiting duty. When he came and took over, so he was out of the MOS for about 3 years.
Yeah,
and he definitely had a chip on his shoulder. One of those staff NCOs that just really, had that opinion of, if you don't have a rocker, you don't have an opinion. He came in hot and heavy, like, just calling all the shots and didn't even want any of our input. And we're just like, me and my buddy Zach Cole, we kind of just sit back with our arms crossed. We're like, okay, it's like, you want to run it, you want to crash and burn, it's going to be on you, not me. And quite a few times he'd fuck up, and whether it be like during HSD or LS operations and shit like that, and it's like 9 times out of 10, me and him would just go and fix it or whatever. And during deployment, the second go around, he actually gets promoted to gunny, so he ends up losing LS platoon because then he becomes the new S4 chief for the battalion.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was senior by Zach by like years in service because I dropped back those 3 weeks in boot camp.
Oh
I was still senior to him by time in service by about 3 weeks. So I ended up getting the platoon sergeant billet, for the remainder of that deployment. He went off and did his own thing, and I had control of my guys again. And during that whole deployment, the whole command climate, shifted, where it was really, it wasn't just, Staff Sergeant Ford, it was, or Gunny Ford at the time. It was like a lot of the senior leadership didn't let NCOs be NCOs. It was that E5 and below mentality, and it's like, it's like, how are we supposed to grow as leaders if we can't call any of our own shots? And let alone, we've done this before on the previous deployment, so we actually know how things fucking work. But it just got to the point where we just felt like glorified Lance Corporals. We put a bad taste in our mouths. We had very little empowerment during that deployment. And it was actually after that deployment when we went to a lot of the same places. The only other place that we went to that was different was Djibouti, Africa, which was ridiculous because they're like, oh, this is our sustainment training part of deployment, which we ended up going there. I will say one of the cool things about it was, once again, got combined with the combat engineers. They were asking for people that had any, heavy equipment experience or stuff like that. And I'm like, well, I played around on an excavator once or twice, and they're like, oh, that's good enough. Come on. I'm like, okay.
It's good enough. There you go.
So I got a hip pocket class. So basically what was happening was over in Djibouti, Africa, there's an Air Force base over there called Shabelle Air Force Base. And it's actually one of our drone bases out in Africa that would do all the strikes into Afghan and Iraq and all that. Anyways, they were doing an airfield expansion, so they were tearing down the old HESCO barrier walls and laying out the new tarmac and putting up the new HESCO barriers. And basically, I had like a 5-minute hip pocket class on how to run a backhoe and a wheel loader, and basically, I was tearing down old HESCOs and filling up the new ones and helping them lay the new tarmac.
Wow, no kidding.
Like, I got to play combat engineer, heavy equipment operator for a day, which was really fun. And I was like, cool. Shit, like I can do this after I get out too, not from the film. But yeah, no, that's also the time I almost died. So basically, after that, the next day, they were doing a 240 range and a 50 cal range a couple miles away. And they were like, they needed somebody to bring them water and chow, so MREs and water. And me and my buddy Hockett were both sergeants. He's motor T. I got assigned to be security. So I ended up going along with them. And, we didn't have our Humvee. We had like one of the local nationals, like Toyota 4Runners, the old one. So we're not armored. I'm like, okay, well, I guess we have better capabilities in this thing compared to our Humvee. But anyways, he said he's been to this range before, but he forgot how we got there. And a funny story with this is we were listening to the radio trying to find our way there and trying to radio them. And then he had like the local station on, and it was around that time that Frozen Let It Go was like the song was playing everywhere. Even in Djibouti, Africa, it's like we were hearing it. I'm like, oh, this is funny.
That's awesome.
So we end up coming over this hill, and we're listening, let it go, let it go. And then I see a destroyed tank off to my right and then a destroyed like MRAP looking thing.
Oh
And all
no.
I start seeing is freaking white tracers going over our heads in a Toyota 4Runner. And I'm like, back up, back up, back up. I was like, back the fuck up. We found the range, but we
Yeah.
found the
The
backside.
wrong end of the range.
So I was like, yeah, I don't want to die today, Hockett. Fucking, because, I was like, where the hell is our Blue Force tracker or anything else? It was just pretty much like, oh, yeah, you've been there before, right, Hockett? Yeah, I got it. I got a gunning. Like, so we took off.
Wow.
So I drove back and I'm like, motherfucker, no, I don't trust your driving. Motor team I am.
Crazy, man. That could have been so bad,
Yeah. Oh, and it's funny, we get there and they're like, hey, did you guys see that white truck off in the distance when you're driving by? I'm like, yeah, that was us. Like, you dumb bitches. Like, yeah. But, yeah, no, that was about the only time where I thought I was gonna get my ticket punched by friendly fire on a range.
Yeah.
So,
good night.
but yeah, so got back from that deployment. Like I said, we went to a lot of the same places. I could say I'd never been to Afghanistan or Iraq. The closest I ever got was seeing the border of Iraq from being in Kuwait.
Mhm.
But, in regards to actually getting the call to go in there, it just never got the call.
Yeah.
I don't really have any regrets about it. Again, if there's anything within the veteran community, especially from what I found online, is how they like to, I want to say we are our worst own critics when it comes to whether it's ribbon chasing or you didn't do this or you didn't do that or whatever. It's like at the end of the day, we really go where our respective branch of service tells us to go.
Mhm.
Like they're called orders. Again, It's like we don't get to pick and choose. Like, oh, I want to go to the front line of this and see combat or whatever. And
That's right.
again, some people have that mentality where they want to go directly into hell's fire. It's like more power to you. I mean, at the end of the day, if I was told to, yes, I would have gone. But again, we all have our jobs. We all have our purposes, and we shouldn't attack one another or belittle one another just based off of our MOS or where we went. And I think that's a problem that needs to be fixed.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it will ever truly be fixed. It's just a matter of people have to realize that, like you were saying, it doesn't matter what you did while you were in, you served. And that should be the bottom line, right? You became a Marine or you became a soldier, whatever. You served, you did your time, wherever that time may have been, and we shouldn't put each other down for it, And how do we get everybody to do that? I have no idea. All I know is I can start on my end. You can start on your end, and hopefully it'll spread,
Yeah. So after that deployment, I was pretty much, I guess burnt out, just ready to, move on. I ended up having a little over a year left, and just getting back from deployment. The wife was starting to get tired of the lifestyle, because we were just at the point of like, our son's doing better now. We can, find ways to make it work. There's other healthcares out there, plus, state healthcare programs for disabled children and stuff like that. So, looking out, it was, getting ready to say, okay, I'm done. And I ended up getting histed for recruiting duty.
Yeah.
And I refused orders. I said, I'm not doing it. So, I basically just told him that, hey, I will take the RE3 Oscar. I'll finish up my time here and, train the next, set of Marines to get ready to go on deployment and get out. Especially with the way I was, treated on that deployment, basically being treated like, being a sergeant had no meaning, at least in this battalion. So, but I knew I was stuck there. And my monitor ended up calling me, Master Gunner Sergeant Richard Soroka, which we're actually friends on TikTok. He found me and was like, "Oh, Master
Nice.
Gunner, how's it going?" But he called me and basically said that you're the eighth sergeant to deny orders on me, and I chuckled with him. I was like, "Yeah, you know." And he's just like, "Well, you're not going to laugh at this next part. There's a slot for Okinawa. It's only a 1 year billet, but you're the only one I got, so I'm sending you." And I'm like,
Oh
and,
no.
and I was like, "Master Guns, I just got back from deployment like 2 months ago." And he's like, "Well, you got two choices. You either take these orders that I'm giving you now, or you refuse twice and you're out in 2 weeks."
Ooh. Yeah.
So obviously, I wasn't ready to get out in 2 weeks
Yeah.
and didn't want to get other than honorable discharge and all that. So, basically, I took the second set of orders. The conversation ended a little ugly on the phone, and I was trying to explain the situation with my son and everything else, and like why I was making this decision and blah blah blah. He's like, it just got to the point where it's like, all right, I'm a Master Guns, you're a sergeant, you're gonna go where the fuck I tell you to go. And I was like, I am Master Guns. So I ended up going to Okinawa very reluctantly. Did not, I kind of went there, with the mindset of like, hey, babe, I know I just left and now I'm going to leave again. And this time it's going to be for a full year. Going to Okinawa initially sucked because it's like I'm missing my kid grow up and, starting to realize that, this lifestyle isn't going to be the best for us. But at the same time, it's like I have to do what I have to do to provide for my kids. So I get there and I ended up going to the S3 for training at Headquarters Regiment with 3rd MLG on Camp Kinser in Okinawa.
Okay.
And ended up going in training, in the S3 and basically doing all the annual training events, PFTs, CFTs, height and weights, all the annual training requirements. So I got to learn a lot of that. And the Master Guns, Jason Top, who was just a motivator from hell, because he was a prior Red Patcher 0481.
Yeah.
And, he knew I was coming and took me under his wing and, told him the whole situation, why I was there and blah, 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 blah. And, I don't know if he had a conversation with Soroka because I guess they came in at the same time, so they knew each other.
Yeah.
And during the monitor visit, and this is like 3 months that I'm there, and it's getting close to the time. If I was going to re-up, it would have to happen soon. But I had the RE3 Oscar. Anyways, like he called me over during the monitor visit, and he's just like, you're in zone for staff sergeant, because I already had all my MCIs and PME done.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, but I signed the RE3 Oscar, and then he looked on his end. He never filed the paperwork on his end as the monitor. So it was on my OMPF, for my records and everything, but it was just on mine. It wasn't on Headquarters Marine Corps.
Right.
So he's like, I'll make you a deal. Re-enlist because I need you back in California, back at San Diego. I'm actually going to send you to Miramar, which for me, that was like, holy shit, Top Gun, here I come, like going back to the beginning, it's like, oh my God, it's coming full circle. I see a little bit of a light. And, I ended up submitting my re-enlistment package, got approved, got selected for staff sergeant, and went there to run the S4 at H&HS Headquarters Squadron Miramar, which, getting there, new staff sergeant, my initial thought, like S4, like, okay, embarkation, getting ready for deployment and stuff. So anyways, get back home after the year in Okinawa and got to be reunited with my family. Took a much needed leave, good month off just to reintegrate and come back home. Got our housing situated. Definitely got to know more of San Diego because everything else was Oceanside, Escondido, and Carlsbad at that point prior to. So, it was definitely, kind of the high life, kind of getting a little bit of relief, it seemed, especially being a staff NCO finally.
Mm-hmm.
However, you know how the Marine Corps loves to throw curveballs.
That they do, yeah.
So when I showed up to my unit, the very first thing was, I was like looking for a turnover binder, trying to figure out what my roles and responsibilities would be.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up finding it. The person I replaced got promoted to gunning and went to MCRD San Diego to run an S4 over there. Anyways, all of the duties that he did not apply to me because when I showed up there, H&HS was like, oh, well, we technically have two S4s. He was part of the big S4. You're going to belong to our S4. And I'm like, okay, so what does that mean? Well, you're going to be in charge of the barracks. So CBQ manager.
Nice.
And funeral detail staff and COIC.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, funeral detail, what the hell? Like, isn't that like what active reservists do? It's like, yeah, but we're non-deployable. Like, all we do is the annual air show every year, bayside cleanup and ceremonies, like retirement ceremonies. So H&HS is what they call a twilight unit. So it's where they send, it's also a cool off unit too, because I was deployed, 3 times within 5 years. So it was like, hey, you're going to go here to cool off for a little bit.
Right.
So basically, it was supposed to be my time off. But when I got to start doing the funeral detail stuff, which my training for that was, here's a drill manual, staff sergeant, figure it out.
Oh, God.
So
that's always the best.
Yeah. So needless to say, I figured it out. Ended up having, a few details. I had a Alpha team and Bravo team for, funeral detail Marines.
Mm-hmm.
And after doing my first year of it, it was a completely new experience. For most people, like, you maybe go to like a handful of funerals in your entire lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
My first year I did 75, and I was just like, okay, that wasn't too bad. And then they were like, hey, we're going to keep you on. You're doing a great job, staff sergeant. So detail's still yours and everything else. And, that's actually when I ended up doing my first few active duty ones, which always hit home. So the majority of the funerals that I ended up doing were for veterans, Vietnam, World War II, Korea, etc. So majority of them, were celebrations of life in those situations. But doing the handful of the active duty ones, that's what really put life in perspective. Few young Lance Corporals getting killed on friction, crotch rockets running down I-15. Which happens all the damn time. And I ended up doing the escort and funeral for Sergeant Chad Jensen. He was one of the MARSOC raiders that went down on that plane in Mississippi back in 2017.
Right.
That was my first plainside honors. That one hit hard because he wasn't that much younger than me, and seeing his wife and his family, like, it's hard, especially with like the training that I was given. Was reading in a book. It doesn't necessarily prepare you in regards to the mental aspect of it. The difference between the difference between sympathy and empathy, which I honestly didn't learn until later on in life. And I've always been a very naturally empathetic person, feeling the feelings of others. But when you're doing that kind of detail, you got to have that balance. And unfortunately, doing a few of those, especially, the one that sticks out the most was a lieutenant colonel that passed away due to terminal brain cancer. He was only 46. 20 plus years. He was actually one of Obama's former Marine One pilots. over there in
Oh,
DC.
wow.
And he ended up dying of brain cancer at 46. He left behind a 5-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl.
Mm.
And when you're presenting the flag and doing a funeral detail, like you represent that family's last, official experience with your branch of service.
Hmm.
And you represent that pillar of strength. And so your bearing has to be perfect, like no
Hmm.
slip ups, no nothing. You know, every time that we did a funeral, we always ensured that it was flawless. Everything down to the drill movements, to the folding of the flag, to the reciting of the presidential speech while presenting the flag.
Hmm.
Um, that one broke me because, handing it off to the son, he took it, didn't really say anything. 5-year-old kid didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah.
So, 6-year-old girl, after, I gave her the flag, she looked me dead in the eyes and asked, "Where's my daddy?" Like she wasn't, still fully comprehending
Hmm.
that, her dad's behind me in that, pine box.
Right.
And
Holy moly, man.
it was really the one time that I really broke, I don't want to say character, but broke bearing,
Hmm.
and, I took her hand that was holding the flag and, I placed it, on top saying, "Your daddy's always going to be right here." And then I took her hand, placed it over her heart, and I said, "He's always going to be here. Never forget that, and that he loves you." And I stood up, popped my salute, stepped off, and I'm even getting emotional thinking about it now. That's what really just put life in perspective of doing that detail for so long. And
Hmm.
the 3 years that I did it, I performed over 300 funerals. Um, so really just puts life in perspective. Um,
Yeah, it does.
and understanding what kind of legacies that we truly leave behind, because we're only here for a finite amount of time. But it was really hard for me not to separate myself from it, because I kept almost putting myself in the box, and that's like my son or my future daughter that I have
Mhm.
now, receiving that flag. So um, it was definitely one of the most humbling, honorable experiences of my life, that I wish that the proper training was, you know, given to help prepare myself, and not just me, but my, other Marines doing
Mhm.
that detail, because I mean, let's be honest, nobody wants to do that detail, but
Right.
it has to get done.
Mhm.
It's the same thing with you know, the body bearers over
Mhm.
in Arlington.
Yeah.
So those guys are all grunts, freaking just jacked, beefy. That's
Yeah.
for anybody watching, that's something to look up on YouTube. Look up the body bearers from the Marine Corps.
The training they do for that is insane.
It is. I mean, because they carry the casket at shoulder height,
Mm.
and those guys are on that detail for only 1 year, and they
Mm.
rotate out.
No kidding.
But you could just see in some of the interviews, like you could just see it in their eyes that it takes a toll.
Mhm.
And you know, at one point, it even got to the point where headquarters Marine Corps casualty branch knew my name, knew my number. You know, calling to help coordinate me, and it's always talking with either the staff NCO on duty or the NCO on duty. Coordinating the details of the fallen and talking with the families. And that's another thing that they never really prepare you for is dealing with a hysterical spouse on the
Oh
phone, just
god, yeah.
bleeding her guts to you, um telling you her husband's story or vice versa. And you know we can't hang up the phone, we can't be rude or be
Mhm.
standoffish, we have to be consoling and caring. um and it's very hard.
Oh
um
yeah.
the business of death, um, that we deal in. And I'll be honest, it still affects me to this day. I do
Mhm.
have anxiety and depression from doing that detail. To this day, whenever I hear taps, like can't help but to shed a little bit of a tear.
Mhm.
So all those memories come back, and I'm man enough to admit that I went to therapy while I was in. I went to mental health, and you know, the therapist I had, he was a prior Air Force captain,
Mhm.
so he at least, you know, has been somewhat in our world.
Right.
The way he broke it down to me made the most sense. It's like, especially with my empathetic nature, um, that I was getting full servings on the daily of what most people get tastes of in their lifetime.
Oh wow. Yeah. Dang.
So,
Mm.
just to put it in perspective, and it's not something that I often talk about, um, but at the same time, you know, am I honored by it and humbled by it still? Yes, to this day. And
Mhm.
knowing that I helped lay my brothers and sisters, over 300 of my brothers and sisters, to rest, um, you know, that
It's
impact on those families and honoring them and you know, their service member, um, I could be proud of, the job I did with that.
absolutely, man. And that's not no I mean, it's no easy task. I don't care who you are. I was in the band, so I wasn't a bugler by any stretch of the imagination, but those buglers that went out regularly, you know, they got they had to see a lot as well, and but not near as much as what you're saying, because is the staff in CYC, you're the one that's handing the flag off, and I've only done that one time in my career, and I didn't do it great. I will be honest, and it was tough. It was very tough, but to be able to do that over and over and over 300 times, I mean, God bless you. That's tough. Mentally speaking, it's very taxing. We'll say that. Yeah.
It is. But I mean, like I said, that's what truly put life in perspective. And I was getting ready to look at re-upping again. Unfortunately, when I was doing that detail, I ended up getting passed over twice for gunny because I never had time to do my PME.
Oh
Um,
wow.
so I never had time to do career course,
Hmm.
and I would have gotten it. I would have been a gunny at 9 years, if I would have, I guess, had a better command with it. Because,
Hmm.
like I said, at H&HS, I mean, the commander that I had, Lieutenant Colonel Spears, he was a Mustang, prior enlisted.
Hmm.
He was the one that actually got my LASIK approved. Uh,
Nice.
so that was, just because of the good job I was doing on the, funeral detail, and I heard that, we can get LASIK done, even though I wasn't specifically air wing at the time. He was just like, why do you want to get it done? I'm like, well, I'm tired of spending money on glasses, and it'd be nice just to, be able to see. He's like, good enough. And he was one of those CEOs too. Like, I stop at the S1 to like route it, the right
Yeah.
way. He's one of those CEOs that would come in, automatically just flip to his portion and sign it, and you just
Yeah.
see the S1 chief losing their mind, like, dude, you have to go through the chain, and it's just
Yeah.
like, he's like, if my signature's already on it, it's approved. Go. so
Nice.
so there was little nice things with that, and doing the air shows.
Mm. Yeah.
I got to do three of them while I was with them, and
Mhm.
got to see the Blue Angels and all the different planes, and
Right.
it was. And since I was S4, I was basically coordinating all the cleanup parties and
Mhm.
resupplies and stuff like that. So while everybody else is walking around, I felt bougie riding around on my golf cart. Freaking, you know, I had a trailer, and I put my kid's wheelchair on that, and I had my son and my wife in the front seat.
Nice.
So the few luxuries, got to
Mhm.
enjoy because of that. And
Very cool.
one of those situations where it's like, rank does have its privilege. So, but again, you know, it was a very bittersweet decision for me to call my career at 10 years.
Yeah.
Just really because doing that detail for as long as I did, and to be honest, even to this day, now and again, I'll get some phone calls from a few mortuaries or funeral homes asking where are the Marines or where's the funeral
Are you
detail.
serious? Wow.
To this day.
Wow.
And of course, my phone number and my contacts hasn't changed. So it's like,
Mhm.
here's all the numbers you need to call, and here's headquarters, Casualty Branch, Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's
Wow.
it, it's one of those things, and it's funny. Like the whole time I was doing it, like Miramar National Cemetery, like they got to know me on a first name basis, and
Mhm.
they even offered me a job there if I wanted it, to be a funeral director. But I was like, I can't mentally. I just, 3 years is more than enough for
Yeah.
me, anyways. And since then, and I also knew that my body was breaking down with all sorts of medical issues,
Mhm.
aside from the anxiety, depression. But uh, I'll put it to you this way: I'm about to have an L4 and L5 fusion at 35 years old here in 2 months.
Jeez. Oh, that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, well, it started bothering me when I just picked up staff sergeant,
Mhm.
things were starting to, cool down a little bit, but I was still hitting the gym hard and still, carrying the chains and doing all the rugged and tough stuff. And, come to find out my L4 and L5, the discs are what they call black discs. So it's basically bone on bone, they're disintegrated. And, yeah, it's at that point now in my life where uh, outside of the military, outside of the Marines, I've tried working as long as I can. I worked in general management with the logistics companies and warehousing and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, but over the last couple of years, it's just gotten worse and worse to the point now where I'm moving forward with the surgery, and I'm already 100% PNC, so my rating's good.
Yeah.
But right now, looking at getting on SSDI just to,
Mhm.
fully retire. But, aside from my military career, my short 10 years that I like to say, you know, if anything, it's more than most. Most
Mhm.
people only do 4 years. So I can be proud of what I did and what I saw, what I contributed
Absolutely.
to.
Yeah.
And now it's just understanding at 35 I have a spine of a 70-year-old. um,
Mhm.
um, let's just say the whole pain is weakness leaving the body. No, that's your body telling you to stop. um,
Good point. Yeah.
it's a cool saying, but you're going to pay for it later in life. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point, man. Oh man, that's crazy.
But yeah.
So,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh, I was going to say, so once you made the decision, okay, I'm going to get out. You end up staying in San Diego, or what did you end up doing?
So we ended up, so I got out in 2019, August of 2019, and
Mhm.
we all remember what happened in March of 2020, just five
Mhm.
months later.
Yeah.
So after I got out, I tried going to trade school for a little bit because that's what all my buddies were saying to do.
Mhm.
I actually went to school for HVAC and refrigeration. I was
Okay.
looking at, getting into that. And, the school was about year and a half, 2 years long. And we just started getting into, electronics and, how to take out and, put in refrigerant and how to braze brass and all this other stuff or
Mhm.
copper. And when COVID hit, they wanted to turn everything to remote
Yeah.
online training. And I'm like, this is a hands-on trade.
Yeah. No kidding. Yeah.
And I'm a hands-on type learner. If I can't touch it, see it, or smell it, I'm not going to learn anything.
Mhm.
So I basically said, all right, well, I'm going to fall back on my MOS and see who's hiring.
Mhm.
And ended up working for Lilly Transportation Company out of Norwalk, California. They're based out of Boston.
Mhm.
And I did that job for about 2 years. Started out as a dispatcher slash manager in training. And then when the real influx of COVID hit, it was kind of my moment to shine. So I was working as a dispatcher. They had a general manager with more experience than me, but at around like 2300 or 11 o'clock at night, I ended up getting blown up with phone calls with all of my drivers just dying, having COVID.
Oh, wow.
And our fleet size was 10 trucks.
Mm-hmm.
And our product was frozen meat. And what was happening during that? All the panic buying with meat and everything else.
Yeah.
So if we end up missing those deliveries, it's going to be bad. So the first thing I did was I called my general manager. No answer. Obviously, he's in bed. And I know they tried calling him too, but I'm the only one that answered.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, after making a bunch of phone calls, trying to get a hold of somebody, because I tried calling general manager, he didn't answer. I tried calling the regional director of operations, the RDO, and he didn't answer. And then I was like, fuck, okay, up the chain again. I'm going up to the VP of operations. No answer. And I'm like, well, fuck, what do we do now? And then I remembered, because we had a sister operation that was Whole Foods that was like, 2 miles away from my warehouse. I call my buddy Sylvester, he's the GM for them. He actually answers.
Okay.
And I was just like, I told him the situation. He's like, what the fuck? Holy shit. Okay. Call my dispatcher, blah, blah, blah. And so I coordinated with him. I was able to get 3 drivers from his operation, but I was still needing another 5.
Mm-hmm.
So, and all the trucks needed to roll by 04:30.
Oh, geez.
Mind you, this is like midnight right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I put on a full pot of coffee and I just start calling every temp agency. So in transportation logistics, there's temporary driver agencies where it's kind of like a hotline. You call and they can have a driver to you, within hours type deal to like fill a transportation load. And by 04:15, I had a driver in every fucking seat.
Wow, that's awesome.
And by that time, the VP calls me back, not the RDO, the VP.
Yeah.
And he's on Eastern Standard Time. I'm on Pacific Standard, being in California.
Yeah.
And I explained the situation to him, and the RDO finally woke up, and the general manager finally called me back. Needless to say, within a week, the GM was fired, and I was promoted to GM.
No kidding. Wow, that's awesome.
Well, because basically, if we would have missed those deliveries that day, the company's missing out on I think it was like $80,000 a day.
Whoa.
So, basically I got promoted and did that job for about 2 years. It was good for the most part. And I was living in Temecula at the time. We ended up buying a house, living in Temecula, but it only lasted until about 22, just because of the way California was, handling COVID and all the stupidity and masking up. And it just got to the point where, I was ready for the next thing. Like, all right, what's I've been here doing this job for 2 years. My salary hasn't increased, they haven't given me a pay raise, So it just got to the point where I was asking, like, what's next? And they're like, oh, no, this is pretty much it for at least another 5 years. And I was like, fuck this. Because it just got to the point, like, I was always working, 6-7 days a week. And I was only making $65,000 a year.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So they lowballed the shit out of me. So I just got to the point where, I trained up a new dispatcher, gave him my notice, and I had a buddy that I made with Ryder, because Ryder was our leasing and truck vendor, and ended up giving me a pretty nice warehouse job in Indiana for a couple of years. So
nice.
Moved to Indiana, away from family, away from everybody, just kind of like, we're going to go on our own, see what happens. And we made it work for a couple of years, but unfortunately, that's when I ended up losing my job due to health issues with my back, and mainly just because it just started getting to the point where, again, like I was saying with my dad, we
Yeah.
tend to do things the fucking hard way. Instead of waiting on a pallet jack or a forklift, I start taking pallets down, and my back
Mhm.
ends up going out, and unfortunately, I had to leave that job, and had to kind of hit the life reset button. So we moved back home to Idaho, and over the last couple of years, um, really struggled trying to find a sense of purpose again. Really struggled
Mhm.
trying to you know find a way to have a meaningful impact, I guess, other than just to my family, and also trying to make ends meet with this crazy inflation.
Yeah.
But with long story short, with TikTok, you know, I was able to kind of survive and get by doing by either shop affiliation or a little bit into the creator rewards. But when we first got back to Idaho, I started working for a car dealership, selling pre-owned vehicles just
Mhm.
to give it a shot, just because I was hearing how much money these guys were making. But you can spend 10 hours a day trying to sell something, but if you don't sell anything, you don't make any money. So it's like you just wasted 10 hours.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's when I was just like, okay, I don't see myself doing this for any long period of time. That plus, I don't know, some of the raised up vehicles and me climbing or jumping out of them was causing my back all sorts of issues. And
Mhm.
uh, back in 24, last December, I ended up getting a new MRI done, and this was a real kick in the gut. Turns out I have spina bifida occulta.
Whoa.
So,
Okay.
spina bifida occulta is the least severe spinal defect, and it typically doesn't show up or not really visible until later years in life.
Mhm.
Um, but basically, what spina bifida occulta is, I have an extra vertebrae in my back.
Okay.
So, with that extra vertebrae, it in combination with the wear and tear from my time in the Marines, just aggravated my symptoms, basically accelerated everything.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but the first thing the doctor said to me was like, "Ooh, I'd be careful about having any kids. You might give them spina bifida." I'm like, "Well, it's funny you fucking mention that because I have a 13-year-old out there in a wheelchair right now."
Wow.
So, and we had our
So you
daughter.
you had no clue up to that point at all.
No,
Wow.
no, because with spina bifida, the causes can be a lack of folic acid in the mother's diet or genetic.
Okay.
Those are the theories.
Yeah.
Like
They don't really know 100%. That's just what they think.
right, and I mean, the country that actually has it the worst is India.
Oh,
India,
really?
the country has you know, the worst population, or the biggest population, I should say,
Right.
of that birth defect.
Hmm.
But we don't have any relatives from that or anything like that. But it's one of those 1 in 10,000 genetic mutations,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, aside from the work career and personal health issues and making it you know making it as a family man and accepting retirement early, I guess, has been the hardest part for me right now. But
Mhm.
essentially what's helping me to keep going is making up for a lot of lost time with my kids, and then also having interactions like this, meeting new veterans, hearing their stories, and just having opportunities to network and grow together. And
Yeah.
um, TikTok has been amazing as far as the community building aspects of it, and the networking capabilities.
Mhm.
And essentially who I am. I'm a man that's been through a lot in his life, and I'm only 35. Um, and essentially, I was forced to grow up quick, and my biggest message out there for everybody is to treat people with kindness and put good things out in the world, and it should return upon you 100-fold.
Yeah.
Just a little bit about myself.
Well, shoot, we're going to have to end this here shortly, but I'd like to have you on again to talk about a couple of different things, if you don't mind. One being, being in the military, having a child that, has gone through what your child went through, but in general, like how is that, and kind of dive into that a little bit, if you don't mind. And then talk about your online presence and what you kind of like, how you got started in it, what you do, and all that type of stuff, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, cool. Well, we'll set that up for sure then. Thanks for coming on and doing this. I truly appreciate it. Also, when we do the next one, I will do my rapid fire questions on you. So we'll do that at the end on the next one. But thanks for, indulging me and coming on and doing this, man. Much appreciated.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure, and I look forward to the next time.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I'll close this out the same way I always do. Remember, don't hang up on me at the end here, but to all the listeners out there, if you're struggling, need help, anything like that, don't forget the VA does have some good resources. You can dial 988, press option 1. You can always text 838-255 or go to veteranscrisisline.net and click on that chat icon. Any of those options will put you in contact with somebody that can help you out. But remember, one veteran life lost is one too many. I care about you. I know Brandon cares about you. The whole veteran community cares about you. So please reach out for help. And if you're out there, you're not struggling, reach out to the buddies you served with. Ask them how they're doing. If they need that helping hand, please give it to them. All right, man. One last time, thank you very much. To all the listeners out there, stay motivated. Change your socks.
No more 22. Honor the journey and finish the fight.